Okay, well, thank you, everyone. So, today I wanted to do a quick podcast on a question that gets asked to me quite a bit, which is, are there certain questions I can expect from a talent acquisition professional when I speak to them for the first time? And so, what I wanted to do was run through some questions that I normally ask on the first call. And this should help you prepare for your first call with a recruiter, talent acquisition professional, or someone within a company calling to just go over your resume and your background for the first time. So I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. Obviously, you can take notes. Any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me at my email address, which is james.schreiber@grtas.com. And you can find all those links on my website, which is www.grtas.net. You can also schedule a 30-minute call if this is something you'd like to go over in a little bit more detail. So usually what happens is I'm looking at your resume, your profile. There's a reason one of myself or one of my staff or a talent acquisition professional has decided to reach out to you. So the first question that I always ask, and I look and I try to confirm, is have you been currently employed in your current position for at least 1 year? That's an important question, and it leads to a couple of other questions. If the answer is yes, then we talk about, how long you've been there and what is the impetus for you possibly looking for a new job or a new move in your career. If the answer is no, and you've been there for less than a year, well, that's going to raise obviously a question of why after 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, 9 months, are you currently looking? And what we're looking to see, what we're trying to figure out on our end, just to let you know, is there something other than the fact that, well, it might be a better position and more money? Is there something significant that would make you want to leave when you haven't been with your current employer for at least a year? So make sure you have, if you are looking, if it is less than a year, make sure you have a good reason that you're willing to articulate during a call, and whatever that is. But we can go over that in another podcast as well. Very important question is, does your current employer know that you might be looking for a new position? Basically, does your current employer know? Do your coworkers know you might be out there looking? You have to be really honest with this. In fact, you should always be honest, obviously. But in this case, if you want it kept confidentially, then you need to say that. Every talent acquisition professional knows and appreciates when somebody is working and they might be looking for a new position or just starting to look for a new position, but they do not want their current employer or their coworkers to know that. So based on that, tell us up front. So the next, of course, is kind of explain to me about what you're doing on a daily basis in your current role. Have that story. How many people report to you? What kind of projects you're working on? The staff that you're leading, who you report to. Be able to talk about that in a nice fluid manner, which will lead to the next question, which is, what would be your ideal next position? What are you looking for in your next career move? And be able to explain that as well. And of course, there'll be some follow-up questions. If there's any gap in your employment, when we're looking at your resume or profile, we're going to talk about that. Be able to explain why there might be gaps, whether you went back to school, whether there were some family emergencies. You do not have to get into those, but you can certainly use that as a reason. But just be able to explain it. Don't leave it hanging out there. I always like to ask, what do you truly enjoy the most about your current position? Talk to me about some real life situations that really get you up in the morning where you can't wait to get into the office. That's important. It shows the passion that you have. Um, and then, we get into other things that sometimes I call it the purple elephant in the room, which is talk to me about your salary expectations. What do you expect in your next position? We'll get into what your current comp is, but what are your salary expectations? Base, bonus, any other type of compensation that you would like. And then we will reconcile that with where you currently are. I'd like to have an understanding of whether or not travel is something that's on the table. And if it is, what percentage would you feel comfortable with? And if somebody says to me, well, I'm open to, 50%, 60% travel, I really want to hear where you've done that in your past career. Because it's not something normally somebody just gets up in the morning and decides, well, I'm going to travel 50% now. There are other factors that could come in to really significantly lower that number on your part if you're not used to it. Do you have any relocation restrictions? And again, that's important when we're looking at certain types of roles with certain types of companies where relocation might have to be a real prospect. So be able to talk about that. Then I want to find out, if we were to move through the process and this is something you were serious in and the client is serious in and we're about to go to offers and possibly acceptances, what is your time frame? Is it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks? And what plays into that as well is, do you have any bonuses in which you need that are due to you and you need to be employed at your current employer until they're paid? I've had many times people say to me, no, I'm fine. I mean, I only have to give 3 or 4 weeks notice. And then when we're going through the process, have them say, well, I am due a bonus and I really have to stay there until XYZ, which might be 3 or 4 months out. And then if I leave, I'd like to be made whole. That's something that needs to come out right away. So the prospective firm or organization or employer can judge you based on a time frame, and also if they are going to have to make you whole in a bonus, if they want you to come in before it's paid, they have an understanding of that right from the start. That's fair to everybody involved. And then, there's education. Talk to me about your education with any degrees and or certificates you've obtained or maybe in the process of obtaining. Be able to speak fluently about your education and the degrees you have. And if you're in a process of obtaining a certain degree or certificate, you should be able to speak about that in a nice way that elicits a pretty outstanding conversation. So that can be then taken and by the talent acquisition professional and portrayed to the client or firm. And then the last thing I like to talk about is pretty simple, which is I say this is free form. I'm just going to take some notes. But tell me why you think, individually, based on your background, your skill set, your expertise, why you be a good fit for this role or this organization. Tell me, give me something that I don't see in the resume. And I allow that candidate to speak, and then that might, again, bring up some other questions that I have. But basically, they're the type of questions you should expect from your first call with any recruiter or talent acquisition professional. And if you practice those questions with yourself, role-playing, in the mirror, and you're able to speak to those like you're having a conversation without saying, well, I don't know, let me think about it. You need to be prepared. Again, this is your career, it's your life, so you want to go out at this first phone call and give the best impression you possibly can. So I hope that was a help. And again, you can reach out to me via my website, www.grtas.com, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Please, if you are following me on iTunes or iHeartRadio or my YouTube channel, please like the videos or podcasts. And thanks again. And I look forward to our next chat. Bye now.